My wife left me a letter after her death. It said, "Don't trust the baby." The smell of lilies was still heavy in the air, a cloying sweetness that clung to everything in our apartment. It had been 3 days since the funeral. 3 days since I buried Amelia. My wife. My soulmate. My name's Ethan Vance, I'm 38, and I was sitting in our living room, surrounded by the quiet echoes of her laughter, the phantom scent of her perfume. Our baby, Lily, just 6 months old, was asleep in her crib, a tiny, innocent bundle. I picked up the small, ornate box Amelia had left for me, her, in case of anything, box. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded lace, was a single, cream-colored envelope. My name was scrawled on it in her familiar elegant handwriting, and inside the letter, a line that ripped through my heart, freezing me solid: "Don't trust the baby." My eyes darted from the letter to the baby monitor on the table. Lily was still sound asleep, a soft, rhythmic breathing visible on the screen. She was so small, so perfect. My beautiful, innocent daughter. Don't trust the baby. What could that possibly mean? Amelia had been meticulous about everything. She had prepared this box months ago, shortly after Lily was born, just in case. She was always a planner, always thinking ahead. But this wasn't a plan. This was a chilling, desperate warning. I reread the line, over and over, trying to find some hidden meaning, some benign interpretation. Was it a metaphor, a message about the overwhelming nature of parenthood? No. The words were stark, direct, underlined twice, as if she'd pressed hard with the pen, emphasizing the urgency. Her handwriting, usually so graceful, was slightly shaky on that line, a stark contrast to the rest of the letter, which began with tender, loving words. The letter was long, filled with her love for me, her hopes for Lily, her wishes for my future. It was typical Amelia, thoughtful, selfless, overflowing with affection. Until that one sentence, it stood out like a jagged shard of glass in a beautiful painting. Amelia hadn't been sick. Her death was sudden, unexpected. A terrible accident, a fall down the stairs at home. I was at work when it happened. My parents, Sarah and Robert Vance, both in their 60s, had rushed over as soon as they heard. My sister, Chloe, 35, was with me at the hospital. The paramedics, the doctors, everyone said it was an unfortunate accident. But now, this letter, it cast a dark shadow over everything. Did she know something? Was her death not an accident? And why Lily, our daughter, was just a baby, completely helpless, completely dependent? The idea of her being anything other than a sweet, innocent child was monstrous. The days that followed were a blur of grief and paranoia. I tried to act normal, to go through the motions of a grieving widower, a new single father. But every time I looked at Lily, that chilling sentence echoed in my mind. Don't trust the baby. I started observing her, scrutinizing her innocent expressions, her tiny movements. It felt monstrous, like a betrayal of my own child. But I couldn't help it. My wife, the most rational, loving person I knew, had written those words. She wouldn't have done it lightly. Lily was a normal baby. She cried when she was hungry, laughed when I tickled her, slept soundly for hours. Her eyes, a startling shade of blue, just like Amelia's, held nothing but innocent curiosity. Yet, sometimes, when she would stare at me with those wide, unblinking blue eyes, a shiver would run down my spine. Was it just my overactive imagination, fueled by grief and the damned letter? Or was there something unseen, lurking behind that innocent gaze? I didn't tell anyone about the letter. Not my parents, who were already heartbroken. Not Chloe, who would likely think I was losing my mind from grief. My best friend, Mark Davies, 38, was constantly checking in, offering support, but I couldn't bring myself to share this bizarre, terrifying secret. Who would believe me? My dead wife warned me not to trust our baby. It sounded insane. I reread the letter countless times, searching for context, for another clue, anything that could explain that one line. But there was nothing. It was just there, a stark, isolated warning amidst words of love. Then, strange things started happening. Small, almost imperceptible things at first. Things I could easily dismiss as grief-induced fatigue or the chaos of caring for a newborn. One evening, I put Lily down for her nap in her crib. I closed the door, making sure it was latched. A few minutes later, I walked by, and the door was wide open, the room bathed in dim light. I distinctly remembered closing it. Another time, I left her bottle on the kitchen counter, turned my back for a moment, and when I turned around, it was on the floor, perfectly upright, not spilled. It was too precise for a simple fall. My mind searched for logical explanations. A draft opening the door, Lily kicking the bottle from her high chair. But she wasn't in the high chair when it happened. She was in her crib. Then, the whispers started. Faint, almost imperceptible sounds. Sometimes, when I was alone in the living room, I would hear a soft, rustling sound, like paper. Or a faint, almost melodic hum. I'd freeze, listening, but the sound would vanish, leaving only the oppressive silence of our now empty home. I tried to rationalize it. The old house settling, my tired mind playing tricks. But the feeling of being watched, of something unseen lurking in the periphery, grew stronger. It was like an icy breath on the back of my neck, even in the warmth of the living room. Amelia had been healthy, vibrant, full of life. But now that I thought about it, in the last few weeks before her death, she had been different. Distant, sometimes, more stressed than usual. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes, just staring at Lily's crib. I'd ask her what was wrong, and she'd just shake her head, say she couldn't sleep, or that she was worried about Lily. She'd developed a nervous tic, a constant rubbing of her temples. I remembered one evening, just a few days before the accident. Lily was crying, a particularly shrill, piercing cry that seemed to go right through you. Amelia had picked her up, tried to soothe her, but then she just froze. Her eyes were wide, fixed on Lily, almost a look of terror. She quickly composed herself, hugged Lily tight, but the image stayed with me. At the time, I attributed it to new parent exhaustion. Now, it felt like a crucial piece of a dark puzzle. She had mentioned wanting to install more security cameras, even though we already had a perfectly good system. She'd talked vaguely about bad feelings, about a sense of unease she couldn't explain. I had dismissed it as postpartum anxiety, gently encouraged her to relax. My heart ached with regret. Had I missed something vital? Had her bad feelings been a premonition, a desperate warning she couldn't articulate fully until that final, chilling letter? Driven by a desperate need for answers, I decided to revisit Amelia's, in case of anything, box. It held her will, insurance papers, and the letter. I sifted through it again, slowly, methodically. At the very bottom, beneath a layer of old photos, my fingers brushed against something hard. It was a small USB drive, taped to the bottom of the box. My heart leapt into my throat. Amelia hadn't mentioned it in the letter. It felt like another secret, another clue she'd left behind. I rushed to my laptop, my hands shaking. I plugged in the drive. It contained a single folder, labeled, Lily. Inside were dozens of video files, time-stamped, most of them recorded in Lily's nursery. Amelia must have hidden a camera in there. My blood ran cold as I started playing them. Most were innocuous. Lily sleeping, Lily stirring, me walking in to check on her. But then, as I scrolled through, I found a series of recordings from the weeks leading up to Amelia's death. One video showed Amelia in the nursery, pacing, agitated, whispering to herself. Her eyes were fixed on the crib, wide with fear. She was talking about Lily, about the changes, about the coldness. She seemed terrified. Another video showed Lily in her crib, alone, sleeping. And then, the crib began to rock. Gently at first, then more vigorously. No one was in the room. No draft. Lily was still sound asleep. It stopped as abruptly as it started. My breath hitched. Then, a final video. It was recorded the night before Amelia died. Amelia was in the nursery, her face pale, her eyes wild with a frantic urgency. She was setting up the small box, placing the letter inside. She looked directly into the camera, her voice a strained whisper, almost a plea. I don't have much time, she choked out, tears streaming down her face. He knows. He's learning. He's changing. Don't trust him, Ethan. Don't trust the baby. He's not Lily. She broke down, sobbing, then quickly wiped her tears, her face hardening with grim determination. She walked to the crib, looked down at Lily, and then, her face twisted in a mixture of love and unspeakable terror, she whispered, I'm so sorry, my sweet girl. I'm so sorry. The video ended. The world tilted on its axis. He's not Lily. It echoed in my mind, a terrifying explanation for Amelia's fear, for the strange occurrences, for that chilling line in her letter. My daughter, my sweet, innocent daughter. Was she possessed, replaced? The concepts were too outlandish, too horrific to grasp. I started watching Lily even more closely, every moment, every blink. I remembered the blue eyes, just like Amelia's. But sometimes, just sometimes, when she looked at me, they seemed to shift, to hold something ancient, something cold and calculating behind the innocent facade. It was fleeting, a mere flicker, gone before I could truly grasp it. Was I imagining it, or was I finally seeing what Amelia had seen? The whispers continued, growing subtly louder. Sometimes, they sounded almost like a low chuckle. And the objects, they didn't just move. Once, I found Lily's favorite rattle, which I had left on her changing table, sitting perfectly balanced on the top of the living room lamp. A 6-month-old baby couldn't do that. My logical mind, the one that used to solve complex problems at my software development job, was now utterly useless. It couldn't compute this. It rejected it. But my heart, the one that remembered Amelia's fear, felt a primal dread. I tried to find information about such phenomena, about changelings, about malevolent entities possessing children. The internet was a cesspool of urban legends and desperate cries for help. It offered no real answers, only more questions and a deepening sense of isolation. I needed to know. I needed a sign. I remembered Amelia's love for a specific lullaby, a soft, Irish tune she used to sing to Lily every night. It was our special song. Lily would always calm down when Amelia sang it. After Amelia died, I tried singing it, but it never had the same effect. One night, after Lily had been particularly restless, whimpering in her crib, I decided to try something. I sat by her crib, my voice shaky, and began to sing Amelia's lullaby. Lily quieted, her eyes open, watching me. I sang the whole song, my heart aching with memories of Amelia. When I finished, a profound silence filled the room. Lily just stared at me. Her blue eyes, so like Amelia's, seemed to flicker, and for a fleeting moment, I saw something utterly foreign, something ancient and cold, lurking deep within them. Then, she let out a piercing, unholy shriek that made me jump. It wasn't a baby's cry. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. I stumbled back, my mind reeling. That was not a normal reaction for a baby to a lullaby. That was the reaction of something disturbed, something revealed. The air in the room grew cold, even though the window was closed. A small, wooden toy mobile hanging above the crib began to spin rapidly, even though there was no breeze. And the whispers, they were louder now, almost coherent, a low, guttural murmur that seemed to emanate from the very air around Lily's crib. I knew then, Amelia hadn't been delusional, she hadn't been paranoid, she had seen something, confronted something, and died trying to warn me. And now, I was alone with it, with him, the entity inhabiting my daughter's body. What do you do when the most innocent, vulnerable being in your life is also the source of your deepest terror? How do you fight something you can't see, something that wears the face of your beloved child? I started sleeping with a light on in the hallway. I kept a small, heavy object within reach. I installed more cameras, not just in the nursery, but all over the apartment. I watched the footage back, hours and hours of it. Sometimes, when Lily was alone, the camera would glitch, distort, or simply turn off. But occasionally, I would catch glimpses. A fleeting shadow moving faster than it should. A toy rolling across the floor without being pushed. And once, just once, a tiny hand, reaching out of the crib, its fingers unnaturally long, stretching towards the doorknob. The he, in Amelia's video, the he, that was learning, changing. It sent a cold dread through me. What was it learning? What was it changing into? I started reading up on exorcisms, on banishing rituals, on anything that could help. It felt absurd, desperate, but I was out of options. My daughter was gone, replaced by something else, something malevolent. The whispers became clearer. Sometimes, they sounded like Amelia's voice, distorted, mocking. You couldn't save me, Ethan. Or, you don't know what you're dealing with. It was a psychological torment, preying on my grief, on my guilt. My parents and Chloe called often, concerned about my increasing withdrawal. I'd make excuses, say I was overwhelmed with work, with Lily. They wanted to visit, to help. I couldn't let them, I couldn't expose them to this. What would I say? Don't come near the baby, she's not really her. They'd have me committed. My best friend, Mark, confronted me one day. Ethan, you're not okay. You need help. You're scaring me, man. I just shook my head, unable to explain, trapped in a nightmare only I could see. I knew I couldn't live like this forever. Trapped in my own home, terrified of my own child, haunted by the ghost of my wife's final, desperate warning. But what was the alternative? To abandon Lily, to admit defeat to something I couldn't comprehend. I would look at Lily's innocent face, the blue eyes that were so like Amelia's, and my heart would ache with a love that was now mixed with profound terror. I missed my wife, I missed my daughter, and I was living with a dark secret, a chilling presence, wearing the face of my baby. The final realization dawned on me. Amelia hadn't just died in an accident. She had been fighting something. Something that had been here, in our home, from the moment Lily was born. And it had won. And now, it was my turn to fight. Or to succumb. My wife left me a letter after her death. It said, don't trust the baby. And now, every night, as I turn off the lights and listen to the faint whispers from the nursery, I know exactly what she meant. And I am utterly, terrifyingly, alone with it.